Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Podcast known as Run the Gauntlet. I hope you all had a very successful week 4, which is something I did not. Guys, today we're going to introduce to you the Steamy Streams segment of the podcast. And also we're going to introduce another segment called Gr8. And in that segment, we are going to be dissecting a lot of the major storylines that we have been following on social media and have been prevalent in football all across the country. We're going to try and clarify that, and we're going to try and bring you a perspective beyond what you're hearing on the media. We are just cold, honest, fantasy football fanatics.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Run the Gauntlet's Fantasy Football Podcast on this very rainy Tuesday. I'm Justin Alfiero. Next to me is
Jimmy LeBeau.
Week 4 is in the books. We are very excited to talk about it. Always working in partnership with the Game Changer Sports Network. They're honest. We're honest. This pairing works out pretty well. It's what we're all about. We just like to be honest and provide different perspectives. And this is what we're here for today. So without further ado, let's start talking about some fantasy foosball. All right, I think, obviously, when you're talking about a recap of a week, I think it's really important to hit the injuries. So, as we do every week, I think I'm just going to go through those real fast and just talk about that. Leonard Fournette, that pesky little hamstring of his, he just missed the past 2 games with a hamstring injury and then left this game with tightness in the same hamstring. Leonard Fournette owners, I'm not sure if you're panicking. I own him in a super, super cheap league of mine. And, I would be panicking if there was more money on the line. So, if you have Leonard Fournette and a lot of money on the line, I'd probably try to get rid of him. I would try to get rid of Leonard Fournette. I would try to trade him. I would want no part of this. I don't like dealing with guys that with injuries. Leonard Fournette, I took a chance on in one league, a cheap league, and I'm regretting it there. I'm not sure if you have Leonard Fournette anywhere.
I do own Leonard Fournette, and my thing with Leonard Fournette is I don't think you should be trying to get rid of Leonard Fournette. I think you should be trying to hold on to Leonard Fournette if you can hold it out. If you can hold out on Leonard Fournette, Leonard Fournette still has the chance. It's still really early in the season where Leonard Fournette has the chance to help you make a deep playoff push in fantasy football. If you're in a position in 3 or 4 weeks when he's fine because he came back in the second half of the Jets game and then just left because the Jaguars were up 3 touchdowns and now he has a hamstring injury and he's questionable, teams do this all the time. I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with Leonard Fournette's injury right now. That's very speculative on my part.
Very.
But
it's a bit of a conspiracy.
It's somewhat, but you see teams do. Tom Brady's had an injured shoulder for years. Tom Brady has never not had an injured shoulder.
Well, no, he doesn't anymore. They used to do that, but
They realized it was meaningless to put Tom Brady's name there
because no one was thinking that Tom Brady might not play anymore because he just kept playing.
Yeah, I think they just do it with Gronk.
I don't know. Fournette just has the history of injuries, and it just never ends with him. I mean, I'm never drafting Leonard Fournette again. I'm never drafting him.
It's the second year.
I'm never drafting him again, and I may be reactionary to the moment. I am never drafting Leonard Fournette again. Tyler Eifert also, I don't even know what to call that injury. There's a broken leg and a half. That was terrible. Obviously, hope Tyler Eifert gets well as soon as possible. It's a real shame. Tyler Eifert was super talented when he came into the league.
He showed it this year.
He was looking good this year. Tyler Eifert, when he came into the league, was really considered to be one of the better tight end talents to come out in a while, and it's just sad to see a guy like him hampered with injuries because I really think he had potential to be like a top 3 tight end. This one might be the career for Tyler Eifert. We're not sure, but we're going to have to see. Rob Gronkowski, ankle injury, spent the entire game in the locker room after he left the game. That's not a good sign, but hey, this is status quo for Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, on a short week, you can't expect Gronk to be there, guys.
T.Y. Hilton, also on a short week, playing the Rob Gronkowski Patriots. He tweaked his hamstring in this game. T.Y. Hilton got a little banged up. He hurt his chest, he came back in, and then he tweaked his hamstring on a route down the field. So he's most likely, almost definitely not playing Thursday this week. Will Fuller left the Colts game this week as well with a hamstring injury, and he didn't play any of the second half. Bill O'Brien said he probably could have played, but he didn't think that Will Fuller would have been able to run all the routes they wanted him to run in the game.
And Kiki Katui with his 15 targets was just on fire. They didn't even need Will Fuller.
And his NFL debut, we'll get to that later. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Will Dissly had a patellar injury. Doctors that listen to the show, tell me what a patellar is.
I think it's something in the knee.
Something in the knee. It could be something. For some reason, the word collarbone. It sounds bad. It doesn't sound good, a patellar injury. So we're going to keep tabs on Will Dissly. We'll update on the Facebook, Run the Gauntlet throughout the week. O.J. Howard hurt his knee, left that game. He's getting an MRI on his knee, and the timing in which Jameis Winston has now come back, and the only tight end is Cameron Brate. Guys, Cameron Brate, you could look it up for yourself, has been absolutely incredible with Jameis Winston under center. So if O.J. Howard misses serious
Got a
times
touchdown this week.
This week and the week before with O.J. Howard on the field, Cameron Brate is must-own at tight end if O.J. Howard is to miss time. And quite frankly, even if O.J. Howard, he's definitely missing after the bye week, to my knowledge. So it's at that point with O.J. Howard's injury. They have a bye this week. He's definitely missing week 6. And we'll see how long it goes from there. Adam Schefter reported he's supposed to have an MRI. So we'll see how that goes. Geronimo Allison has to go through concussion protocol before he gets back onto the field. Fantasy football doesn't reward these guys, but I think it's really important for offenses when important offensive linemen get hurt.
Absolutely.
So TJ Lang of the Detroit Lions is also in concussion protocol right now. Obviously, the Lions, for those who have Kerryon Johnson, TJ Lang's one of the best linemen on the Lions. That's a tough injury, but concussions, luckily, guy maybe 2 weeks, he'll be out, you know what I'm saying? 3 weeks tops.
It's really bad seeing that concussion word, because once you hear the C word, the NFL gets involved. And it's for these players' own well-being, and I respect it. But anytime you see if this happens again this season, the odds TJ Lang plays more than 7 or 8 games this year is really low. And that would be a crippling blow to a guy like Kerryon Johnson.
And a crippling blow to the Lions in general.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's an interior lineman. They'll get away with it. But that's a massive, massive blow.
Well, it would be even worse if he was a blindside tackle like Joe Staley hurt his knee in this game. Mainstay blindside tackle for the 49ers has been one of the best tackles in the league for years now.
Yeah.
Since Colin Kaepernick was doing good on the 49ers. And it's Joe Staley's incredible. Hopefully this knee injury isn't anything that's going to keep him out. Not that there's much fantasy going on the 49ers, but for those of you who are excited about Matt Breida, perhaps, after the injury, Jimmy Garoppolo's out. Now they have C.J. Beathard. Joe Staley's hurt. The Niners, maybe you want to stay away from that situation in fantasy football going forward until there's a little more clarity.
I mean, the only thing that's clarity in that offense is George Kittle. George Kittle is a must-own tight end.
I agree, and George Kittle caught me off guard this year because I did not expect lightning to strike twice, and this does not seem flukish at all with George Kittle. He looks very, very good this year.
Yeah. Another guy you missed on the injuries was Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is questionable for next week as well. And
I did not know.
One of the beneficiaries of that was John Ross. John Ross has 2 touchdowns in 4 games and has really established himself as a deep threat for a really surprisingly high-powered Cincinnati offense.
Yeah. Cincinnati's been really good this year, and I always think Andy Dalton's at his best. Which, again, just to go back to Tyler Eifert real fast, I always think Andy Dalton's at his best when Tyler Eifert is healthy on the field. Go back to the potential MVP campaign he could have had that one year. Tyler Eifert was balling that year, so this is unfortunate for the Bengals.
Yeah, but I think that's more of a spoke on the wheel that the wheel will keep turning in Cincinnati.
If they had another tight end, I would say he was, but Tyler Eifert is supremely talented when he's on the field. I don't know. I'm upset. I'm a little messed up about the Tyler Eifert injury because I was rooting for him.
Yeah.
As with every week, there are expected outcomes and outcomes that are not expected, right? So when you expect something and it does not happen, that's what we call a little bit of bait. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, how about we get into Week 4's great bait mate?
The number one storyline coming into Week 4 was Andrew Luck's shoulder. And what does Andrew Luck do? What does he do? He has the game of his past 2 years in the NFL. Any question about Andrew Luck after that Jacoby Brissett single pass attempt has finally been answered by this performance, and on Thursday night, the entire nation, in prime time fashion, is going to see a spectacle when the Colts play the Patriots. And guys, watch out for Chester Rodgers.
I am almost offended that you took that bait from me because I was all over this last week. Guys, the disrespect that went Andrew Luck's way, I was saying it, I was posting it on the Facebook page. He is throwing the ball an obscene amount of times this year, more than any time in his career. As a Colts fan, I know this. People have lives, so they don't realize what Andrew Luck does, but I do. He just threw the ball 62 times. His shoulder is fine. 464 yards, 4 touchdowns. That was with T.Y. Hilton in and out of the game. I can't even believe these guys on NFL.com, these guys on ESPN, I'm name dropping, I don't care. These guys have more integrity as to disrespect Andrew Luck in such a way. It was unbelievable to me. I am so happy that he answered that real fast, guys. Stop it. Calm down. Relax. Andrew Luck is fine. What an excellent quarterback he is. And as a Colts fan, I am super excited. But guys, don't be worried about Andrew Luck over one Hail Mary. Jacoby Brissett has a deceptively strong arm. If you isolated arm strength in its own, Jacoby Brissett would be amongst the best players in the league. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other things that come into being a quarterback, and that's why Jacoby Brissett's a backup. But
he can start on some teams.
Yeah, sure, but he's a backup for Andrew Luck, who is amazing, guys. This is unbelievable this story came up. That was great bait. The whole nation took it. I don't even know what else to say, guys. I'm glad it only lasted 1 week. Continue on with your lives.
So continuing on with the segment here, some bait coming into the season. Looking at it from a more of a macro situation than just a simple micro week 4 setup.
Absolutely.
The Baltimore Ravens offense and team as a whole is downright for real. I put a lot of disrespect on the Baltimore Ravens. I sat on this show and I called Joe Flacco Joe Fluco for the past 3 weeks. There is no fluke in Baltimore, Maryland this season. The Baltimore Ravens are for real, and the beneficiary in that offense is not... It could be Crabtree. I'm not going to say it's not Crabtree. It hasn't been Crabtree.
John Brown's doing fine.
Yes.
Willie Snead has targets coming his way. Joe Flacco's playing good football, guys. Joe Fluco, as some people like to call him, is playing very good football this year, and the Ravens look poised for a little bit of a playoff run this year. It's very early to say these types of things with a tough division, but they look good.
It's not even unbelievable to say. Now, the AFC North might come down to the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Browns at the end of the season. And the Ravens don't have a running game, so get as many pieces of the pie in Baltimore as possible, because Baltimore can't run the football. Alex Collins is not a good running back. We said this from the beginning. Alex Collins is not deserving of...
And now Kenneth Dixon is hurt and done for the year, which means Baltimore doesn't have a good running back on their team.
Which means Buck Allen's the only... Well, not Buck... Yeah, Buck Allen. Buck Allen's the only one worth owning. Like, Buck Allen... Alex Collins, listen, if you drafted Alex Collins, you hold on to Alex Collins. But Buck Allen is the only one I think that will have an efficient role in that offense, and that just means Joe Flacco has to throw the ball 40-plus times, because stop it.
Yeah, and Alex Collins is actually so bad that if he was a free agent in one of my leagues, I wouldn't feel the need to pick him up.
Oh, it'd have to be a deep team.
It'd have to be deep, like free agency. Listen, if it was a light free agency, but in a 10-teamer, I don't think I'd have a problem if my roster was good enough keeping Alex Collins on free agency. Like, I'd get over it.
I would do it for upside, but that's really just... If I had the flyer, I wouldn't force the drop. I wouldn't force him onto my bench, but he would. I would certainly recommend picking him up if he reached the waivers.
You know what was incredible bait this year? Well, this started in the NFL draft when, with the 27th, 28th pick, the Seattle Seahawks selected Rashad Penny in the first round. This was bait.
He just averaged 5 yards per carry last week.
Let me finish. Chris Carson owners, anyone who was waiting on that injury... what did you do when Chris Carson went down? Did you panic? Did you happen to say, well, this is a good opening for Rashad Penny? Well, if you were anything like me, you got baited. That was great bait by the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Davis, at some point after the preseason, Mike Davis had been cut by the Seattle Seahawks. And this guy comes in. After they drafted this guy in the first round, Chris Carson's hurt. 21 carries, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions for 23 yards. All while Rashad, the bum Penny, 9 carries for 49 yards. Not saying he's a bum. He played well. I am saying he's a bum. The fact that he has not proved to the Seahawks that he is worth the carries on 1 week of Chris Carson absence over Mike Davis, who wasn't even on the roster to start this season. This is disgusting. This is great bait. Seattle's backfield is great bait, and Mike Davis has done nothing but complicate the situation going forward. Pete Carroll, after the game, was asked about Mike Davis and what this means going forward. He said something along the lines of, he fits in somewhere. He fits in somewhere, guys. Something like that.
He said straight up, it's going to be a committee and they're going to ride the hot hits.
Yeah, and if he fits in somewhere, what are the possibilities that it is just Chris Carson and Mike Davis's backfield and Rashad Penny gets nothing?
As of right now, I think that will be the case, but I think mid to late season you will see Rashard Penny's name pop up on some waiver wire just because of the draft capital invested in him. And the fact that Russell Wilson is their quarterback, they might look for more of a receiving back down the road. But right now, Rashard Penny is not ownable, and the handcuff to Chris Carson is Mike Davis without a doubt. If Mike Davis is on your waiver wire, I highly recommend picking him up.
Yeah, especially if you're in a deeper league, guys. 12 teams, a deeper bench. Mike Davis, I mean, who's the last guy on your bench anyway? Mike Davis just had 100 yards. I bet that guy hasn't rushed for over 100 yards, whoever the last guy on your bench is.
No.
So you got to take that when you can get it in fantasy football because, hey, you can take anything you could get.
Another bit of bait coming into the week was the hype around, coming into the season too, was the hype around the Vikings defense. The Vikings defense has not been good.
Been bad.
The Rams just...
The Rams score on everybody for whatever it's worth.
I understand that. I really do, but the Bills did too. And the Vikings made the Rams look like the greatest show on turf again.
They might be.
And how many people got screwed because they saw the big, bad, purple people leader defense on Thursday Night Football and benched a guy like Cooper Kupp? How many guys maybe didn't play their Robert Woods, which we don't ever recommend doing? Play your studs. But guys, the Vikings defense, if you drafted them early, if you drafted them in the same range as the Denver Broncos or the Jacksonville Jaguars,
you're in bad shape.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a defense. You'll survive. The Vikings are interesting. I'm not scared of that matchup, and that only improves the prospects of Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Viking offense.
The most lucrative fantasy football offense in the NFL.
Short of the Los Angeles Rams.
Short of the Los Angeles Rams. That is very true. I hope to see that again in the playoffs because the Vikings, although I believe they're 1-3, are really... I enjoy watching the Vikings play. It's fun.
Who's going to win the NFC North? Aaron Rodgers with one leg? The Bears with Khalil Mack and a second-year quarterback in Trubisky who just had 6 touchdowns? We will address that soon.
Bait.
And Matt Stafford on the Lions? I mean, the last time the Lions won the division, it was like the Browns winning a game. It was a party. Like, certain trends don't change.
I would bet on Aaron Rodgers on one leg.
As of right now, I agree with you. It's 2-1-1, absolutely.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers has a...
Which, by the way, the Vikings are 1-2-1.
1-2-1? Very good. You know what's the mark of an amazing NFL quarterback? Let me cite Andrew Luck. Let me cite Aaron Rodgers. Some good facial hair.
It's about Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I am. Ryan Fitzpatrick, guys, it is sad. It is a sad, sad story. We're all rooting for the beard. 400 yards 3 weeks in a row. Whether or not you expected it, it has to be bait. He is now the backup quarterback once again for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after throwing that interception in the red zone. They got blown out 48-10. I doubt anyone invested anything serious into Ryan Fitzpatrick, but the ride is over. That is just upsetting. Yeah. I consider it bait because it was getting to the point where people thought he was going to take the job. I was not innocent in that belief. I thought that he definitely had a good chance to keep it, especially with all the Jameis Winston antics. But Ryan Fitzpatrick was bait.
Yeah, guys, it's a shame. I loved Ryan Fitzpatrick in that run. I was such a fan. Like, if you follow our social, we covered that so much.
We post about Ryan Fitzpatrick more than most.
Yeah, it was awesome run. Like, I'm very happy Fitzpatrick had that as both a Jets fan and a lifelong Fitzpatrick fan, getting back to his days in Buffalo. But here's what he is. He's a journeyman quarterback. This is what these guys do.
He has a chance. If Jameis Winston doesn't perform, he has a chance to take the job back. I'm not rooting for or against Jameis Winston, especially because I like Cameron Brate. I'm rooting for Jameis Winston in a sense.
Yeah.
But hey, Fitzpatrick, not sure if he'll get another chance in the NFL, but that was fun while it lasted.
You know who proved to be great? Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has proven to me that he is deserving of his RB1 status beyond 1 year. Kareem Hunt has been dominant in fantasy football and PPR formats the past 2 weeks, and I don't expect that to change. I think Patrick Mahomes, you were correct in saying that Patrick Mahomes would slow down.
He was incredible this week.
Oh.
We could talk about that a little bit after. He was incredible this week.
Yeah, he's a bad man. He honestly...
I thought this was his most impressive game, believe it or not.
Oh, especially with that defense.
Call me contrarian, but I loved what I saw from Patrick Mahomes in that game.
Yeah, and as he starts to be figured out on film, this will only benefit Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt will just get a lot more carries. He's going to get a lot more attention because Andy Reid's smart. Andy Reid, this is what there's a trend with the Chiefs every year. They did the same thing last year and the year before that. They start off really hot. They get the offense rolling, they build their confidence, and then they change it up. Then they pull a 180. Last year it was the vertical attack. After that it became the Kareem Hunt show.
Yeah, this year it's actually going in reverse order. It looked like the vertical attack, and now the Kareem Hunt show. And boy, if they just ask Patrick Mahomes to be a game manager, forget your fantasy teams. The Chiefs are going to be dangerous. Really, really, really dangerous. That guy, I'll get into him after because I've said a lot of things about Patrick Mahomes. I want to take this episode after to show him a little bit of respect.
I believe they are the only undefeated team in football right now. I believe they're the last man standing.
Yeah, if only the Dolphins were able to pull that one off. Bunch of bums talk about Gr8. I didn't write them down, but that was very predictable, guys. If this is not your first year watching football, shame on you if you didn't believe that, because you know better than that. I thought bait for this week. I saw him on your list. I'm going to steal it from you because he's next on mine. Mike Williams. Guys, for those of you who had maybe thought he could be your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 maybe, I'm not saying he can't be, but very disappointing if you decide to trust him this week. Week 1, he had 5 receptions, 81 yards. 2 receptions for 27 yards and a touchdown in Week 2. Burst on in Week 3. 4 receptions, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. We know Phillip Rivers throws a lot of those. So it's a real shame to see him get 1 reception for 15 yards in a very competitive game this week, no less. So that was bait for the week. I don't have Mike Williams anywhere, but my friend over here, Jimmy, does. And I was upset for him.
Yeah, that hurt to watch, but it happens. It happens. I still trust him. I still believe in him. I really do believe his talent will come through later on in the year.
If not next week, it was just this week. It was bait. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Another guy who really, there wasn't really much bait to this. It was just pure greatness. The Falcons' offense, and particularly Calvin Ridley. I don't think that's bait, folks. I think Calvin Ridley is the real deal, and Calvin Ridley, call me blasphemous. Calvin Ridley has the potential to be a top 16 fantasy wide receiver this season.
I am not calling you blasphemous at all at this point. Matt Ryan has shown he is best when he has another receiver there, and Calvin Ridley is another receiver there. He has been lights out. He's always wide open for some reason.
No, because Julio Jones is getting all the attention, and it's just turning into Calvin Ridley touchdowns. Don't forget, their running game is still very effective in keeping defenses honest. Also, they still have Mohamed Sanu. It's not like they lost Mohamed Sanu.
No, they did not. He's still on the team, and he still plays football well.
Yeah. The Falcons offense, guys, I think they're the real deal. I don't foresee them slowing down, particularly with the defense that has lost Keanu Neal and 2 other starters in their secondary.
Another bit of bait for this week. The Giants only scored 18 points against the Saints, and that's a shame. The Saints, even after that Giants game, are allowing almost 30 points per game. And that is just terrible. I'm going to be honest with you. Eli was one of my streamers last week. With all the weapons they have on that team, I figure we would see not the same thing that we saw in, 2015 or 2016, the 52-49 Classic.
Yeah.
But I thought we'd have a lot of points. The Saints scored 33, so you figured the Giants would have been right in that 28, 30-something range. Damn the New York Giants. This is a shame. That was bait. I don't think anyone expected them to score less than 20 points this week. They're missing Evan Ingram. Maybe I glossed over that.
Well, Shepard played well.
Shepard did play well. But other than them, you know what I'm saying? I'm surprised that Eli didn't put up more of a game. Maybe I was just downplaying what Evan Ingram meant to the offense.
It's the Giants' offensive line. The Giants will never be able to reach their fantasy ceiling on a consistent basis with the absolute bum squad they have trying to protect Eli Manning. I think the talent is there. I think Eli Manning is a perfectly fine quarterback to unlock the upside. Odell Beckham, once this guy starts getting touchdowns, they're going to come in bunches, and he's going to be one of the top receivers of fantasy football, as we all know him to be.
Yeah, guys, quick bit of advice. A lot of times, because seasons are week to week, a lot of people play head-to-head. Most people play head-to-head. A week is 7 days, and you're only having a score 1 day out of the week, and a lot of people, really think about it throughout the entire week. So Sunday and Monday happens, and then throughout the week, all these different thoughts are going through their head. With guys like Odell Beckham, don't panic. It is what it is. Odell Beckham's one of the best wide receivers in football, and there is no need to panic when he is still playing well on the field, because that's what matters. When he stops playing good on the field, then you panic. Odell Beckham's been fine on the field. His numbers are going to come. He's not even technically playing bad. He has 200-plus yard outings to his name already. Just no touchdowns, guys. Just wait for it. It's fine. Don't panic on Odell Beckham. Don't panic on any guys of his caliber that haven't done exactly what you want them to do just yet.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is Odell Beckham a sell high trade candidate? Or an odd buy low?
There's certain players that it almost offends me when people trade them. And just Odell Beckham should just not be involved in trades. He's just one of the best players in fantasy football.
Yeah.
I just don't think Odell Beckham should be involved in trades. If you have him, keep him. That's pretty much that.
No, just because it was something I had been exploring. I'm not exactly going to do it, but it had popped into my mind, the idea of being able to flip Odell Beckham for hopefully 2 or 3 starters. But I'm so hesitant on doing so. It's not one of those things that I'm going to force. It's something I was considering.
You can't recreate the star power. There is something to be said about, let's say Odell Beckham was playing on Monday Night Football, and you're going into that game down by 20, 30 points, and like most players, you look,
and you're just like, done.
You're done. Odell Beckham gives you hope. He is a cornerstone fantasy football franchise player. And I don't think you should trade guys like that unless the value is undeniable that you're getting in return. It has to be real good.
Yeah.
It would not involve you shopping him. It would involve someone really digging and making the best offer possible.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Kind of getting off the great bait, I think we covered quite a bit there. I think it is time to discuss some Week 5 streamers. Some steamy streamers.
Some very, very steamy streams.
I think at the quarterback position, once again, Blake Bortles is a starting fantasy quarterback versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Guys, stream of the week as well at quarterback.
Yeah, guys, he just torched the Jets. Based off opposing quarterback rating, the New York Jets are top 7, even after that Bortles game.
Well, the Jets are at least a competent defense.
Yeah.
They are not one of the lesser defenses in the league. The Chiefs are.
They might be the worst.
The Chiefs, for those who keep count of things like this, are allowing 28.8 points per game. And get ready for this. This is astonishing. 328.5, rounder up, 329 passing yards per game the Chiefs are allowing this year. Woof! Even Blake Bortles could throw on that.
Yeah. I mean, Blake Bortles could throw on quite a few teams.
You just could never predict it. But this right here, Blake Bortles will do fine this week. Even if you stream him and he's not spectacular, I think you're still good for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns at a floor against the Chiefs.
You might have a pick, but who cares?
Who cares? Most leagues don't penalize for that. Maybe you lose a point or 2.
I think another streamer option is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Keep riding the Jacksonville offense. There's quite a bit there. It's not becoming the one option in Jacksonville. It's becoming the many.
Yeah, just predicting which week it's going to happen. Kansas City is the 4th worst team in the league versus tight ends, behind only like the Saints, naturally, and like 2 other teams that I can't think of off the top of my head. But Kansas City's really bad against tight ends this year, guys. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins is not brilliant, but he's definitely good. And if they're going to allow this many passing yards, perhaps it would be to Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and perhaps he gets a touchdown out of this performance. This is really what you could hope for with a tight end. I have a stream this week, guys. I have a real steamy stream this week. Chester Rodgers this week, guys. Take it from a Colts fan. I wouldn't lie to you. I'm very willing to talk about the Colts' shortcomings and how bad they are in plenty of situations. Chester Rodgers is a classic example of a player that no one outside of a certain city gives credit to, but just stays on the roster like for years. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people were astonished when the Colts didn't draft receivers early this year, and I'm telling you, it's because they had guys like Chester Rodgers. People were astonished when they didn't go out and spend a lot of money in free agency on a guy like Allen Robinson, perhaps. It's because they have Chester Rodgers. He's not incredible. He's not amazing. But he's more than competent at receiver. He's wildly underrated with the ball in his hands. Had 11 targets this week, and T.Y. Hilton did play in off the top of my head, I want to say 60% of this game T.Y. Hilton was in. He had 8 receptions on 11 targets for 84 yards to Chester Rodgers this week. Short week versus New England. T.Y. Hilton won't be on the field, and Andrew Luck has to throw to someone, especially if Jack Doyle isn't going to play again. I think in PPR formats, you get an extremely high floor out of Chester Rodgers with upside for a lot more because, again, he's very, very dangerous with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely very high on Chester Rodgers this week. Staying within that game, I actually have 3 Steamy Streamers from that game.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to stick with Indianapolis first, and I'm going to talk about Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines has RB2 potential in Indianapolis, because Indianapolis will have to throw the ball 50 times, or at least 40, and Nyheim Hines will be on the fields for most of those. Nyheim Hines is the receiving back. Nyheim Hines will be used in a similar way to Darren Sproles and Corey Clement in Philadelphia, sticking with the Frank Reich tree. And that's just going to continue to help him. He had 2 touchdowns last week, and he effectively almost won the game.
Oh, that catch over Tyrann Mathieu. I wish I knew how to pronounce his last name. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, I'm just going to say, for the sake of shortening that blunder. That was an incredible catch. Dude had 11 targets.
Yeah.
Nyheim Hines, and they have been using him consistently in the passing game. Out of the slot, out of the backfield. No T.Y. Hilton this week as well. He's definitely going to have a role this week.
Yeah, like he could potentially have 9 to 12 targets, and that's incredible. For a backup running back,
yeah, you can't beat that.
Who's owned in less than 50% of leagues, guys.
And in terms of yardage, receptions are always more valuable than carries.
Always.
Yeah, and that's worth mentioning because a lot of times running back, he's essentially a receiver in his own right, and you don't get that out of a lot of running backs.
Think Duke Johnson, Theo Riddick. Those guys were potential top 20 RBs in fantasy football in their peaks in PPR.
Yeah.
Nyheim Hines is the same vein with probably better quarterbacks that both of those two have ever had.
All right, how about I upset you by picking a guy versus the New York Jets? We had covered the rookies in the preseason, and my analysis on Courtland Sutton stated that he did not have enough of an opportunity to get involved, given that Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders were on the team. And you would think, after that analysis, if Philip Lindsay also got involved, who I did not anticipate, that there'd be no chance Courtland Sutton was involved, but they go to Courtland Sutton. They don't mind Courtland Sutton. He had 3 receptions for 51 yards on 6 targets last week. Guys, this Jets defense just allowed 5 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown to Dante Moncrief, who is horrible. Courtland Sutton, at the very least, is a promising young prospect, plays in a similar role on the Broncos as Dante Moncrief plays on the Jaguars, and I think it's a good stream this week. Again, I went super deep on streams this week, so Courtland Sutton, I think, is a beautiful streaming option this week against the New York Jets.
I agree with that. I think a potential streaming option from that game, Robbie Anderson. It's only a matter of time before it happens, and I think this is a bounce-back game for the Jets and Darnold. They just played really well against the Jaguars, and Robbie Anderson's still getting 6-7 targets a game. It's going to click. I can say it till I'm blue in the face for the rest of the season, but this guy, he's going to have a day. He's more of a DFS play than he is a season-long play. Other than that, there aren't really too many streams in that game. Going back to the Indianapolis-New England Patriot game, I love revenge games. Revenge games are a beautiful thing in the National Football League.
Yes, they are, and I already know what you're going to say.
And there's a former first-round pick with the greatest quarterback of all time throwing him the football in New England with a prime revenge game for the whole world to see, for this man to break out, and that man is Philip Dorsett.
Never heard of him.
He was non-existent when he was a Colt, but the man was once his first-round
draft pick. Oh, the Colts drafted Philip Dorsett?
Yes.
With what pick, a first-rounder?
A first-rounder.
I would have never known with how bad he played for us.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about Jerry Hughes, sir.
Jerry Hughes, yeah. We don't play IDP, no fantasy football, no individual defensive player here.
No, guys, but Philip Dorsett will probably continue to start for the Patriots until Josh Gordon either A, learns the playbook, or B, develops any type of rapport with Tom Brady, or C, actually outperforms Philip Dorsett with the way Philip Dorsett's playing this season. Before you intervene, he will also probably start over Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman returning from suspension on a short week with potentially no Rob Gronkowski. Philip Dorsett might have a more secure role in the short term on the Patriots offense than Edelman for this current week.
That's a bold claim.
I think you could see potentially James White and Philip Dorsett really being the guys dominating the targets in the Patriots offense this week.
That I wouldn't argue against you. I'm going to go on to one more stream that I have here. This is real deep. This might just not work. But New Orleans defense, terrible. worse than the Chiefs' defense. That's when you know. 30.2 points per game, 311 passing yards per game they're allowing. How about Paul Richardson on the Redskins versus New Orleans this week? Alex Smith has, other than his rookie year, never thrown an interception versus the New Orleans Saints, has 3 and 2 touchdown performances. Paul Richardson in the past 2 weeks has 46 yards and a touchdown in week 3, and not in the past 2 weeks. They had a bye week last week. In his last 2 games played, has 46 yards and a touchdown and 4 receptions for 63 yards. There's some mumblings out of there that he's dealing with some sort of injury. I believe a shoulder injury. I just don't quote me on it. And he's been managing it the entire season, but he's been doing a good job. And Paul Richardson's a big play receiver. Maybe against New Orleans he pops one off. I think that's a decent stream play if you're desperate, considering the bye weeks this week are the Bears and the Buccaneers. Maybe you have Allen Robinson. Maybe you have Mike Evans. And maybe you're in a 12-team league, and a lot of guys are on the bench. So Paul Richardson might be the type of guy, depending on what your bench looks like, that you might have to plug in for a week. I think he might have a big game this week, boom or bust type of guy.
Yeah, and it's surprising that Paul Richardson hasn't started to click in Washington. I really liked Paul Richardson signing with the Redskins. Paul Richardson's a very atypical receiver for Alex Smith to throw the football to, and I think it's a matter of when, not if, with Paul Richardson having a few really big games and making a really big impact. I think Paul Richardson's an excellent daily fantasy play this week. Get some specimens around Paul Richardson and FanDuel, and you might have a chance. His low ownership will be stupid, and his high upside is equally as stupid. It's just a matter of it actually clicking. In that game, personally, I think a better low-cost, high-upside wide receiver is Cameron Meredith. He's not necessarily a streamer, because I don't necessarily think you should be starting him right away because of his slow snap share. But Cameron Meredith, coming out of the bye week next week, be ahead of the waiver wire on this one, guys. If you could get Cameron Meredith now, going into a bye week, where he's already out-targeting Ted Ginn and Traquan Smith in that offense in the past weeks he's been healthy, getting touchdowns and 3 receptions in both games. Well, getting a touchdown and then 3 receptions. Do that now while he's out there and it costs you nothing. And when he comes out of the bye week and potentially plays like 30 snaps, that's potentially a streaming option going down the road. And I highly recommend stashing him on your team. Another guy that I recommend on the stash is Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen currently right now is owned in 50% of leagues. Some less depending on the website that you use. I'm going based off Yahoo. I don't have to tell you the upside of Greg Olsen. I don't have to do that. You should know that. And Greg Olsen has said he will play this season, and he's expecting to return in the next few weeks.
Yeah, if you have an IR spot, I say take Olsen. I think sometimes it's hard to roster an injured tight end. But Greg Olsen is an exception. You're right about that. Greg Olsen is one of the best tight ends in the league. That foot really scares me these days, but I mean, if he was a free agent, if someone happened to drop Greg Olsen, that's what you do. You pick up guys like Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
Considering you probably roster guys like, goodness, I don't even know. Some people are rostering people like Jordan Wilkins. I'm a Colts fan. Hurts me to say it. Shouldn't be on your roster.
I mean, if you want to go based off the points, a guy like Jordan Howard, but he's a bust.
I was high on Jordan Howard coming into this year. What even happened this week?
It's happened all year.
He's always had more touches than Cohen. Cohen had like 20 to like 5 or something. That was insane.
Well, Tariq Cohen's not a rookie. Tariq Cohen has established himself in the offense, and Trubisky obviously trusts him. If they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more, Tariq Cohen has some RB2 potential going forward for the rest of the season. That's not bait. I think that's
That's bait.
In PPR. In PPR, Tariq Cohen has RB2 potential, week in and week out.
If Tariq Cohen's your RB2 in PPR, I apologize. Don't want to offend you. You did not do the best job. But hey, with injuries, maybe it's a thing. I would never be satisfied with Tariq Cohen as my RB2, at least as it stands today.
Last week he was an RB1. He filled in beautifully for Christian McCaffrey's bye week.
For those who happen to own both, hopefully there's like 3 of you that listen.
I did.
Very good. You might be the only person that listens.
I have him, I have McCaffrey, Carlos Hyde, and Deion Lewis. So my backs are pretty good in that league.
In our league,
Mr. Zero RB did all right.
In our league, I think for people who are doing 0 RB this year, if you happen to survive and drafted Mark Ingram, he's back.
Yeah. Guys, Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara has not had a potent role running between the tackles this season. Mark Ingram will. Alvin Kamara will continue to be more of a slots receiver and RB out of the backfield for Drew Brees, which is still an RB1 worthy of a top 6 pick. I was very wrong about Alvin Kamara in that regard.
As was I.
Yeah, we were both off on Kamara, but hey, whatever.
Well, here's the thing. I was off on Kamara because of Ingram's return. So here it comes. Woof! Here come the New Orleans Saints. This offense is flowing. Drew Brees looks like he's 25 years old. Alvin Kamara actually is like 24 years old. Mark Ingram, contract year. If not with the Saints, he wants big money next offseason. He's going to ball, expecting to be used on the ground in the passing game. Beautiful thing returning from suspension. You had mentioned Julian Edelman before. The Patriots, let me just put it like that. The Patriots, it's fine. Julian Edelman, everyone enjoy. PPR owners, enjoy your wide receiver 3. Perhaps your wide receiver 4. Perhaps your wide receiver 2. Here comes Julian Edelman off of suspension.
And he will have our wide receiver 1 weeks.
Yeah, and speak of suspensions, guys, hopefully you have Aaron Jones. That's been doing real good. You'd obviously like to see the Packers give him a little more touches. But Aaron Jones off suspension has been very good so far. I think it's worth mentioning.
His running ability, he reminds me of a guy by the name of Ray Rice. Aaron Jones between the tackles and running off the edge without the pass-catching ability is so similar to Ray Rice, it's disgusting. Like, just go back and compare like some of the film on both those dudes. Mm-hmm. Their vision and their elusiveness are pretty on point with each other. It's
I've never actually thought of that comparison before, but now that you stated, I do think it's very similar. I think Aaron Jones is actually a little more explosive and Ray Rice was a little more skilled. But overall, just off the top of my head, I think that's not a bad comparison at all.
Yeah, I was reading an article from someone, I believe it was Fantasy Pros, and they made that comparison. And I looked it up a little bit, and wow, same build, same size, just same burst, and a really good opportunity in a high-powered offense to make a name for himself. We've seen guys step up in Green Bay, and with Aaron Rodgers having one leg, Aaron Jones might be the beneficiary.
I agree. And speak of high-powered offenses, let's hit one more thing before we wrap this thing up. Le'Veon Bell in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense has said Week 7, James Conner owners, oh no, the charade is over. You guys have to trade him, have to find a way to get Le'Veon Bell. Do something. Le'Veon Bell is coming back after what James Harrison said about faking an injury after a couple practices. Who knows what's going to happen, but Week 7 is the number that Le'Veon Bell and his agent have put on his return to Pittsburgh. Huge deal in fantasy. Guys that drafted him in the first round, if you didn't trade him yet, take a deep breath, sit back, and just wait if you're not 0-4.
Well, here's the thing for all Conner owners. Le'Veon Bell will not dominate the touches 99% to 1% anymore.
It's going to be like a solid 80 to 20 at the minimum.
James Conner will still be... He'll be on our Steamy Streamer list a few times, James Conner. Even after Bell's return. James Conner owners, do not push the panic button and immediately get rid of James Conner. James Conner is still better than 90% of the guys on your waiver wire, and the Steelers really do believe he's the future of that running back position, or else they would have paid Le'Veon Bell by now. There's no reason for them not to use him if they have that much faith in him. This is a good opportunity for him to improve, and the Steelers obviously want their future at the running back position to get better. So do not push the panic button on Conner. Conner owners, dig in. Obviously, you're about to lose a starting running back.
Try to figure it out. Get some depth. Do something, guys. Be active on trading. Be active on the waiver wire. Do something. That's what you always have to do. Always prepare for the next conundrum to occur to you. That is the name of the game in fantasy football. It's just being prepared for something to go wrong because guys get injured in football all of the time. And I think on that note, that should probably be the last thing we talk about on this episode. So I am Justin Alfiero. Next to me is Jimmy LeBeau. He wants me to say it. We are working in partnership with the Game Changer Sports Network. Guys, that's a really good website. TheGameChangerSportsNetwork.com. Amazing. Check us out on Facebook. Run the gauntlet. Look for a logo with a black background. RTG. Super fun page. We post. We're very personal. We answer people. Like us on Facebook. Like the Game Changer Sports Network. Not only do they cover fantasy football, which is your interest, they cover just about everything that involves sports. And for me, that is all. Jimmy, do you have anything else to say?
One thing, guys, and please reach out to us on social media for this. Going forward on Sundays, we really want to hear from you about your start-sit questions. We really want to hear from you about your personal fantasy issues. We are here to help you, and we try to help you as much as we can with the podcast.
But, dude, we both work full-time, not doing fantasy football, believe it or not, in school, so it's a lot.
Yeah, but please, guys, reach out. We will do our best to help you, and how do I put this? The only stupid question is the question you don't ask. I'm always active on the Facebook. I try my best to be active on Facebook all the time.
Jimmy is incredibly active on the Facebook, guys, and I wouldn't just say that to say that.
Like, please reach out to us. I want to help you, not for me. But honestly, guys, I'd rather you be successful. I really want to help, really bring you guys along and help you guys out. I would never tell you to do something I wouldn't do myself. All the time. I said it before the season. I do own Odell Beckham. I do own Jarvis Landry. I do own Sterling Shepard, Mike Williams, Dion Lewis. These are all the guys I hyped up coming into the year. And guys, I would never tell you to do something I wouldn't do myself. So I'm really giving you as honest of an opinion as I can. And I know Justin's the same way. So please reach out to us. Let us know what you need. And we will do our best to help you out.
And guys, what a novel idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link the Facebook in the description of this podcast that you're listening to. You have to think, we only put a podcast out once a week. So any other coverage that we have is on that Facebook page. And I assure you there's more than what we do on the podcast, guys. On that note, we're going to end it. This is Run the Gauntlet's Fantasy Football Podcast. Good luck this week, guys. Have a good one.
Peace.